ChatGPT is not another search engine.
Right, it's definitely not another search engine, and as you start to converse with it like you would another person, it really helps you dial in your thinking. The GPT 4.5, which is crazy, you can have it now on 4.5 act as if they were a individual, famous or otherwise, and it's actually passing the Turing test now.
Glenn, welcome. I'm so excited that we're getting this chance to sit down in this beautiful spot, although it's raining outside
Is
behind
it raining?
us.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't been outside yet, so.
Yeah, I know. That's the way it is. So we're gonna talk about marketing. And we talk a lot about marketing kind of behind the scenes, but it's not something in this arena that we get to talk a lot about.
We don't. No, it's a great topic because at the end of the day, everybody's marketing all the time.
Yes. And I think a lot of people would be surprised that you think a lot about that you think about a lot of the decisions and the strategy and the vision through a marketing lens. So share us a little bit about that.
So I've been in some version of marketing probably since the mid 90s. I built my first internet marketing company in 1996 called Interactive Cafe. We were a website development company, and so I was helping companies get exposure, and then of course, then it came along SEO, and so I was really early on in SEO, email marketing, and just a lot of that stuff, and recognizing that a lot of it is marketing impressions over time. He or she who has the most marketing impressions tends to win.
Right.
And so how do you create that so that you can create your inbounds?
And it's interesting that premise, like you time-stamped sort of back to the 90s. So fast forward, decades to today, but that premise still holds true, and even more so with all of the social media vehicles that we now have.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's funny because actually even before that, I was doing some investor relations work, and I was actually the not investor relations, but I was doing investor communication forums for AOL. And the way I got that was that I was also doing some investor relations work online on Prodigy, America Online, and then my own online service at the time called stocktalk.com, which unfortunately I let go of that domain name before I thought it'd become valuable. But we use terms like aggregating eyeballs, content is king, and this was actually pre-web.
Wow.
So the concepts that we talk about as being like novel today has been around at least since the early 90s.
Interesting. It's like fashion, right? Like an article of clothing is in style, goes out of style, and comes back in style. It's like we've almost had that arc.
Right. Yeah. And what's old is new, and what's new becomes old, which basically means that people get sort of tired of it, but then once it's sort of disappeared from our general consciousness, it's now new again.
Yes. So let's talk directly to our agents. What should they be thinking about for marketing their businesses and their brand kind of in this moment?
Yeah, it comes back to this whole idea. Can you get like enough attention so that you can generate the amount of business that you want to generate? And there's obviously good attention and bad attention, but generally speaking, you're looking for good attention.
Yes.
And then how do you cut through the noise? And cutting through the noise usually means what is it that you're doing differently than the masses of agents? Something that's remarkable, meaning that people talk about it because it's different and unique.
Okay, so that's your X factor, right? We talk about that something special, right? That we all have, that we need to put out there into the world to build our business and our brand around that.
Right, and you have to, sometimes you have to create it from scratch. Like you have to reinvent yourself for the market you're trying to serve. Everybody, you ask agents all the time, like, what makes you special? Well, I do a good job. I work hard.
I'm honest.
I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, that's table stakes.
Yes.
Like, you are not standing out by saying that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it is challenging sometimes for agents to lean into, especially with the emphasis on things like video and doing things like this. And we always encourage them, just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just
Right.
go and do it. Let's talk a little bit about AI. A topic that is very much top of mind for you, for us in the business,
Right.
but I think particularly for us as marketers, because AI is impacting the marketing world so much. What are your thoughts of how agents should be using AI as part of their marketing strategy?
Yeah, I mean, at the very minimum, their marketing best friend should be one of the major, AI platforms, whether it be OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, Grok, whatever.
Do you have a favorite?
Right now I'm using ChatGPT. It seems to be the most solid. I find that Claude and they tend to be a little bit more too businessy, and I do want to I feel like what OpenAI has done is they've created a interface or integration that allows me to feel like I'm talking to another person, and that for me gives me comfort in the ideas that I'm generating versus it just being factual.
Right.
So for me, I tend to like that. I think Grok has a lot of potential too, just playing with it. But I feel like the OpenAI sort of nailed the how does it become my trusted advisor, sort of conversation.
Right. So internally in the marketing team, we've created several custom ChatGPTs where we will put content in and it will help us with developing headlines, subheadlines, hooks, content. And it's really fascinating to see that. And then on a personal front, we have personal ChatGPTs. So we have a Glenn ChatGPT, we have a Leo, we have a Wendy, we have several of that. And it is, I find that as we use them more, we are having conversations with the ChatGPT.
Right.
Right. So we'll ask it a question, it will give it a response, and then we can say make that more conversational.
Right.
Make it more personal. Right, like you were saying. So I think, what are some of the sort of tips and tricks you would share with people on just how to better use ChatGPT to get good responses?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you could do, I mean, let's focus on marketing, I guess, per se, is based on, if you use ChatGPT a lot, which I encourage you to do, it will get to know you.
Right.
And then you can use a prompt, something to the effect of, based on what you know about me, how do you think I should market myself to my community?
Love it. Okay.
And just see what comes back.
Yeah.
And then continue the dialogue. It's not like going to Google and typing in a search phrase and going to a website and that's the end all be all. You're actually starting a conversation that you get to sort of ideate stuff with. And there's a lot of people that still are thinking, oh, this is just another search engine. They type in their thing, they get their response, but they don't continue where the value is it's brainstorming this whole thing out. And that, in my mind, is the value, because as you start to converse with it like you would another person, it really helps you, dial in your thinking very quickly in a way that becomes actionable for you.
That's great. That ChatGPT is not another search engine.
Right. It's definitely not another search engine, and all the features that keep on getting added. We've got the GPT 4.5, which is crazy. You can have it now on 4.5 act as if they were a individual, famous or otherwise, and the Turing tests are actually it's actually passing the Turing tests now. It's the first GPT that's actually, first GPT that's actually passed the Turing test, which basically means that people, when reading it versus stuff from the actual human being, call that the human as much or more than the human themselves.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So let's think very practical from our agent's perspective. If we were building a checklist for an agent of how they could use ChatGPT, as we've been talking about that as a tool in their business, what would we put on that? Sort of thinking of their daily activities.
Right.
Where could they incorporate chat into their daily marketing
That's
activity?
a perfect prompt.
That is a perfect prompt. That's exactly what they can do. They can ask ChatGPT,
They can use that
where can I
exact
use
thing.
in my marketing?
Yeah, you could use that exact prompt,
Yeah.
and you could put that in, and it would actually give you what you need to do next.
There we go, everyone listening. Like that, go put it in and see what it says. And I think you'll get answers like for your listing remarks, for your open house flyers, for your any other ads that you're doing online, like all of those things. I'm going to go do that prompt and like see what it comes up with.
It's crazy. I mean, and then you can take that content and say, and take that and use it as the basis of a custom GPT. For those who want to sort of take it to the next level, you can go and create your own custom GPT, add this content, and now it will keep that same frame of reference for any conversation you have with that custom GPT, which becomes immensely valuable because if all you do is just go into ChatGPT, which we'll learn over time, but if you can take that content and then combine it into one focused GPT, it's really a game changer. Like you could have a website development GPT that has your brand and all the other stuff that goes with it. You could have a social media GPT that helps you develop just social media content for your business. And then of course the new image generator is just insane.
Insane, yes. So as we're recording this, I think the sort of the trend now is to ask Chat to make you an image of you as a action hero.
Right.
And we've been seeing that all over sort of social the last few days. So if you haven't caught on to that trend yet, go do that because it's kind of interesting to see what Chat thinks of all of us as action heroes.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't done that one yet. I did my Ghibli though. You know, so.
Yes, yes. Let me shift gears a little bit from that. What do you think makes a good brand, a good personal brand when you think of sort of on the real estate front?
I think you've got brands all over the place, but I think so the biggest thing, the reason why I think personal brands work is because there's a degree of vulnerability of putting yourself out there. And that by itself is endearing to consumers. And the reason is because most consumers feel self-conscious. They don't see themselves doing that, but they like to hear from people that are like them, that are sort of being more vulnerable. So the first thing is just get on camera. Like one of my favorite folks that you and I ran around with, Dale Chumley. Remember Dale? Like he did 365 days of videos back in the early 2000s, like early mid 2000s, and he did it for the single purpose to get comfortable with being on video. And he built a great personal brand before Instagram came around and all the other stuff. But I think that really is one of the things that getting there, doing a video a day and putting it out there will help you build a personal brand faster than trying to get it right the first time.
Yes, yeah, just do it. I say that all the time. Like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be perfect. You'll get better at it.
Anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first.
Yes, yes.
Especially in marketing. Like really, like most people probably watching this are not good at marketing. And they don't do it because they're not good at marketing. But the only way to get it good at marketing is to do bad marketing at first.
Yes, yes. And sometimes in between.
Right.
But we test and
test and learn.
Yeah, we see all of those things. When you think of outside of personal branding in our business, what are some brands you admire from kind of other businesses' perspective, and what do you admire about them?
Well, they're kind of the stuff that we admire today because they did it badly at first. Like if you go back to like Starbucks, if you look at their first logos, I mean, they're kind of they were kind of off color. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't really want to put that in public nowadays,
Right.
right? But now, I mean, Starbucks is such a great brand. And at some level, they probably wanted to right angle the market back in the early days. They wanted to get attention, so they created this, the logos that they created back in the day. But everybody goes through phases. Like I literally have a poster in my house from 1980 of Apple with the colored lines. I bought it at at a little. Was at a store. Actually, my dad probably bought it for me, but I have this. I have a original poster that was early Apple, pre-Mac. So I mean, so I had an Apple too. So that was, and it was simple. It was eye-catching. And obviously they hired a really good graphic design and marketing company to come up with what they did. But Apple certainly is there. I think it's just you just have to develop it over time and just iterate on whatever it is that you're doing. And if you iterate and take your brand seriously, you'll figure out ways to improve it over time. But you do have to take time to regularly relook at what you're doing.
Yes.
And then take it to the next level.
Yeah.
In fact, you've just recently
we
did
just
that.
did that. Yes, exactly. So if we go back to about a year ago this time, we were talking about sort of what does that iteration of the eXp brand look like. And to your point, that brands are an evolution where they're a living, breathing sort of thing,
Right.
that change and morph as time goes on. And we went through our own brand glow up here at eXp for that. So I think for our agents listening and business people listening, your brand will do the same.
Yeah, and if it's not, it will become tired and dated, and people will, eventually it becomes vintage, and then it's cool again.
Eventually, yes, like bell-bottom pants
There you
are
go.
back in style again, for sure. When you're looking forward, to the future, AI and the technology, obviously we're figuring out how to use them as tools to kind of leverage time. How do you think that we find that balance for the personal side? We're in a relationship business.
Right.
And the advancements of the technology. Sort of how do those two things come together, and how do we find that balance?
One, balance is an illusion.
Okay.
So I think you're in it to win it.
Yeah.
Which means you're in there working on your business all the time, and you're figuring out what are the new tools and technologies to get me to the next level. But you're in a competitive marketplace with everybody else doing the same thing. So and when I say it's an illusion, it really has to do with what are your priorities, and if your priorities are sort of this work-life balance, which is great, then you're going to have a different level of success in your career, generally speaking. If you're focused on your career, that's where but at the same time, we are as real estate professionals, we need to be out where the houses and the people are.
Right.
And if we're not having discussions at this point in time, then we're not generating real business. Now, that might change in 10 years. AI is changing everything super fast, but we have to figure out ways to get in front of people as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So that we can go and work on that business.
Yes. And I think what I was thinking was that we leverage the AI and the technology to keep the personal part of who we are, right? So that people are still getting to know me, even though I'm using the technology to do tasks faster in my business, which then frees me up to be more face-to-face time, out in the market, out at open houses, out at events, all of those things.
Yeah, I think one thing's like we've talked a little bit even at the event here about different AI tools and technologies agents can put in their business. Whereas, and I'll just say 5 months ago, you were in a world that from a website development standpoint, you needed a developer to work with you to develop a website.
Yeah.
We're now in a world today, and certainly you go 2, 3, 4 months from now, we're in a world today where a prompt into an AI can build you out most, if not all, of what you need from a website and branding perspective. And it will get it 80 to 90% right on the first prompt. And you think of what that means for you as an agent. It means you're not spending as much time having to work on your website and your web presence.
Yes.
But you do still have to spend time figuring out, okay, what's my next thing, what's my next hook to generate the next lead? Because, kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, we're in a competitive marketplace. You're not the only person doing it.
Yes.
So you still have to do the quadrant 2 activities, sort of using the Stephen Covey, the Eisenhower quadrant, which is important but not urgent. So working on your business rather than in your business. And so you have to figure out, what percentage of my time am I spending on my business, improving processes and workflows and lead capture and that type of thing. And I would say 20% of your time needs to be focused on that. Sometimes we call it lead generation.
Yes.
But I think lead generation really is lead generation combined with technology enhanced by AI. And then that ultimately leads you to the opportunity to sit in front of clients and earn their business.
Yes, that's great. Well put. That equation, I think, is a great equation there. The lead generation, the technology. I love that equation. Anything that I want to wrap up. Anything that you are sort of watching in the future, and I think you alluded to this, so kind of setting this up a bit, that could just surprise people on the technology front?
Yeah, well, the agentic software that's coming down the pipe that's enabled by AI, the ability to quickly build anything that you need to build. If you need an app for your business with your clients that you want to stick in the App Store, there are AIs that will help you build that. Now, it's a little clunky today, but compared to what it was 6 months ago, it's super smooth.
Right.
But in a few months, it's going to be one prompt. You'll be able to have an app in the iOS App Store and the Android App Store personally branded to you that is like over the top, cooler than anything you're currently using with your clients today.
Amazing. And I think if we go full circle to the advice you gave earlier, is that it's not going to be perfect, but just do it and keep doing it and iterating on it, and you'll get better and better with using that technology.
And if you do it early, the reality is the vulnerability piece.
Yeah.
Like, consumers like to see technology first, and if you're the one that brings it to them, even if it's clunky, you get credit for giving them that info, which means that you're top of mind when they're thinking of forward-facing, tech-savvy real estate professionals. So think about it as a marketing tool rather than a technology tool.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for finding the time to sit down with us today. Thank you for encouraging us and giving us all the space to be marketers. And thank you for creating this amazing platform for us here at eXp.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Thank
You're
you for
very
being
welcome.
here.